Now, the chief of Russia's Wagner mercenary group has said that President Zelensky was being deceptive after suggestions that Ukrainian forces had recaptured the city of Bakhmut.
Yeah, he said that the situation on the flanks is shaping up according to the worst predicted scenario for Russia, that is. So that signals more misery, it would seem, for Putin's troops.
Well, joining us this morning to help unravel these new developments is Politico reporter Stefan Boscia. Good morning to you, Stefan. Really good to have you with us. And it does need unravelling this because we've had conflicting reports in the past few days about this spring offensive and movements being made by Ukraine in Bakhmut.
That's right, and some of the most movement was seen on a very stagnant eastern front for a very long time now. Over winter, it has been very much a static situation in the eastern territories of Ukraine. But we've seen over the last few days, over the last week, that territory has been won back by the Ukrainian forces. The big question has been whether this is the long-awaited counteroffensive by the Ukrainian troops that is expected to start, very imminently. If not, this could be the start of it. The Ukrainian forces are saying, no, this is just, local skirmishes and local battles in this eastern city of Bakhmut, one of the key theatres of this war. And it has, as you said, really revealed some splits in the Russian military and their paramilitary forces, such as Wagner.
You've got to be so careful with this, though, don't you, Stefan, in terms of expectation management? I mean, and particularly how President Zelensky deals with that and what is actually happening. I mean, in some respects, getting the truth out there is not necessarily helpful, I hate to say it.
Well, that's right. I mean, both sides have their own story to tell, and they're both going to put their own spin on it completely. I think what we have to do is rely on independent organizations, independent think tanks, independent NGOs, while also, ultimately we are allied with Zelensky and the Ukrainians. While we, are supporting that effort very strongly, we also need to think that everything we hear from them is going to be 100% the truth, because they are in a war where propaganda is key. I think that, we do have enough information to show that, yes, there is increased fighting in Bakhmut and the Ukrainians are doing well, but to suggest they've taken the city is obviously not anywhere near where it is. But it is really, the important thing is that it may show that this is the start of what could be a very long counteroffensive in Ukraine, which will take months likely, if not longer, and will most likely set up what the, how the state of play is in this war for a long time.
We had it confirmed this week from Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, that we are sending Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine, these long-range missiles. How much does that change the game, if at all, for Ukraine?
I believe this is the first time they've been given long-range missiles, so it makes such a big difference. It means that they'll be able to fire from, obviously, further away from within their own territories. It means they can more tactically hit targets from the Russian supply lines coming into eastern Ukraine. It just, it's another string to their bow, and another example of the West getting behind Ukraine and providing them with the very best military equipment and fighting resources that we have. And I think as this war goes on, if this support continues from the UK, from the US, from NATO, we're going to get to a point, if we haven't already reached it, where the equipment being used by Ukraine is far superior than Russia, and it will continue to hopefully grind the Russian forces down. I think that, very significantly, as we heard earlier, is the fact that Prigozhin, the leader of Wagner, which is like Putin's private army, and it works very closely with the Russian army, is saying that in eastern Ukraine that there is now Russian soldiers. We've seen it quite a bit, but we're seeing increased instances of Russian soldiers fleeing and not wanting to face any sort of Ukrainian offensive. So we are at a point where there does seem to be an opportunity for Ukraine to make some serious gains.